The clock is ticking as we have now entered, I quote, a crucial phase in Beijing's long-standing efforts to impose sovereignty over Taiwan. That is the opening line of the Taiwan chapter in the latest USCC report. The bipartisan Congressional Advisory Group warns that China could be able to launch a military operation against Taiwan as early as 2027. Meanwhile, the recent Trump-Xi phone call has triggered fresh speculation about US-China dynamics and what that could mean for Taiwan's future. So if Beijing does have a timeline, the question is when and how? Do we have what it takes to deter aggression in a timely manner? And how far is Washington and its regional allies willing to go? Hello, this is Taiwan Talks. I'm Ethan Liu. Today, my guests are Shen Mingshi, Institute for National Defense and Security Research Fellow, and Guillemont Lallery, Institute for National Defense and Security Research visiting scholar and a retired U.S. Air Force Foreign Area Officer specializing in irregular warfare and missile defense. Great to see both of you here in the studio for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Monday, the 24th, leaders of the world's two most powerful countries had a rare direct phone call. According to China's state media Xinhua, Xi was quoted as saying that he outlined China's principal position on the Taiwan question, underscoring that Taiwan's return to China is an integral part of the post-war international order. Trump, on the other hand, carefully steered clear of the issue in his Truth Social post, highlighting discussions on Ukraine, fentanyl, farm exports, and broader trade issues. He also said now we can set our sights on the big picture without once mentioning the word of Taiwan. So let's first, Guillermo, talk about this phone call, unusual phone call between Xi and Trump. What made it stand out from the usual previous China and U.S. conversations?
Well, according to reports, it was not announced, and so it was kind of a surprise phone call. And the way I look at it is, the phone call was two different phone calls. One, China's interpretation. The other one is the United States' interpretation, which are significantly different. And so the main point is, as you mentioned, besides Taiwan, is the idea that the U.S., after the World War II, China and the United States were fighting together against common enemies. And the problem is that the China that China is talking about is not the same China that the United States fought with against the Imperial Japanese forces. It was the KMT, the ROC forces. Mm-hmm. And so the whole imagery is off.
This is a very interesting point that you made. In politics, we often say one country, two interpretations. But I think this time it's more like one phone call, two interpretations. So Dr. Shen, what do you think of this situation?
First one, we were thinking about that recently China and Japan tension. I think maybe Xi Jinping tried to test Trump his attitude about Japan's the so-called Taiwan contingency, the Japan contingency, and this attitude want to concern about this, and if Trump support Japan premier or not. The second one is, of course, each time when Xi met Trump or met another United States president, also want United President to say that do not support the Taiwan independence or upset that the Taiwan independence at that time. And sometimes China media also liar, say, oh, United States government or United States president agree not support the Taiwan independence. Mm-hmm. And this time very different. It's not about this. It so-called that Taiwan returned to China from 1945. I think it. You can see that last month ago, China talking about the Cairo Declaration, mentioned about many documents about the Second World War. It means that China right now try to find a legal base about the Taiwan is belong to China, not about the One China principle, because One China principle is created by China. In any international principle, not mentioned about this. So right now, China try to back to the 1945. It means that PRC already replaced ROC. So if Taiwan what belong to the ROC right now is belong to PRC. So you can see the someone said it's a lawfare or legal warfare, and I think plus media warfare, especially that the two leader phone call.
As Dr. Shen has pointed out, maybe China is trying to find a legal basis for the whole situation. But if it cannot find it, is it safe to say that it's actually forging its own narrative by a very careful choice of words, as we can see in the official statement issued by China's foreign ministry? As you have mentioned that the return of Taiwan, without mentioning the word maybe independence or unification, the tone may sound softer, but I think it's like 100% calculated, right? German, what's your take on this?
Well, I think clearly China is floundering in its attempt to create a historical legal precedent for the idea that Taiwan is part of China. But as everyone knows, actually the status of Taiwan was not determined after World War II. It was left undetermined. And some people even argue that Taiwan was neither part of the PRC nor the ROC.
That's one theory.
That's one theory. And so the idea is that it's very complicated, and China is trying to find a solution to this problem. And I don't think they're going to find it, because the PRC never has ever had any kind of actual legal claim that's legitimate for Taiwan. And just getting back to the point that Dr. Shen made about the Japan controversy, I think that Xi Jinping, if he did talk about Japan, which I think that he did, he thinks that President Trump controls the Prime Minister of Japan, and he can tell her what to do, because that's how China believes everybody does. All the world powers control the sub-countries under them, and that's how they think.
Mindset.
Yeah, that's how they think.
So with regards to China's mindset and what they're thinking, so let's see this from Taiwan's perspective. So under the situation like this, what should Taiwan do, especially when China has maybe presented its own narrative, maybe new narrative, which resorts to history? So in this battle of words, as you mentioned, maybe not on the visible battlefield, what can Taiwan do, maybe diplomatically or in other fields?
Yes, we know that the United States so-called One China policy is different from China One China principle. I think One China principle is the only China in the world is the PRC, and the PRC on behalf of China. And the third point is Taiwan is part of China. This is the One China principle. But the United States One China policy not admit the third point. So United States not admit that Taiwan is part of China. So I think right now for Taiwan, we need to mention, need to emphasize that from 1945 is the ROC lead China to fight the Second World War. And then ROC also established United Nations. Our national flag still there. Everyone knows that's ROC. You need to admit ROC first, and then, of course, let the China narrative. This narrative is not work, because even Trump or even many United States officials know ROC is still there, but we don't have a formal relation. We don't have diplomatic relation. So right now, I call you Taiwan, but I know you are government of ROC. So this is very important. So how to counter China media warfare or narrative warfare? I think this first point is very important. And how to persuade the other country in the world to know. We're not asking you to admit the ROC, but you need to know that right now ROC is still in Taiwan. Right now it's already 114 years.
Okay, so I want to bring this conversation back to focus on now. Okay, despite all those history stuff or the background of it. Okay, one thing is for certain is that China and the United States, Trump and Xi talked and they even agreed to visit each other next year. So does that mean that we can see the warming of the US-China relationship, or you think it's too early to tell, German?
Well, according to press reports, this meeting is going to happen in April or thereabouts. So, yeah, I think that there's a good chance that the relationships is becoming more stable, which is good. But, you know, the relationship will have ups and downs. And just getting back to the quick question of what Taiwan can do now about the media warfare conducted against Taiwan, I believe the best way to do it is become more transparent, just like the Philippines has done and garnered not only their own people's support, but international support.
Okay, so much for the immediate political signaling we have discussed and witnessed from the Trump-Xi phone call. But beyond that, Washington has also put some of its longer-term anxieties about Taiwan into writing. The latest report from the US-China Economic Security Review Commission lays out concrete timelines and scenarios for Taiwan crisis, citing 2027, 2035, and 2049 as potential target windows when Beijing could be capable of imposing a blockade or even launching an invasion of Taiwan. He also warns that the 24/7 PLA activity around Taiwan is not just intimidation, but increasingly looks like rehearsal for something real. Watch.
We're losing warning time. These aren't just moves to exert pressure and have presence to make a point. They're actually rehearsing certain aspects of a amphibious invasion, communication links, logistic support, et cetera. So that all decreases warning time significantly if they choose to take the step of going from coercion to actual attack.
Dr. Shen, how imminent do you think this threat really is?
First, I would like to talk to the timeline. We know that 2027 is come from the Admiral Davidson mentioned this timeline in 2021 because he said that after 6 years, and China will have a capability to invade Taiwan. But right now, you can see that because this timing is very sensitive because 2027 is PLA, China military established for 100 years. And that year also that Xi Jinping if want to continue his power. 2027, 21st Party Congress in that year. So this is very important. But because right now, you can see that many senior general of the PLA purged because of the corruption. Even Eastern Theater Command, even Vice Chairman He Weidong, this general is his responsibility is how to organize or make an operation plan to invade Taiwan. So right now, I don't think that have any qualified general can organize this big operation plan in 2027. So 2027, more and more experts mention about that. Maybe not 2027, maybe 2032. Or you mentioned about 2035. And why 2032 is because Xi Jinping continued the fourth term will end it in 2032. So before 2032, maybe he want to create his personal historical achievement.
Legacy.
Because unified Taiwan is a very big achievement for Xi Jinping, even more than Mao Zedong. But 2035 is because China has the so-called three-step strategy. First step is 2021, second step is 2035, the third step is 2049. It concludes that the so-called 100 year, Party 100 and PRC 100 year. But I don't think that's only the plan. But I don't think if Xi Jinping have power, he's a little bit anxious and initiative, a little bit hurry or warning, concerned about that, resolve the Taiwan issue in his term. So I don't think we're till to 2049. Yeah.
Okay. But despite the 3 dates, I think the real trigger here is that when China believes it is capable of doing it, right? But capable for me is an abstract adjective. So what capabilities exactly are we talking about? Like for China to believe that, okay, now I have this, so maybe the time is right, and for the rest of the world to be on the lookout for.
Okay, let me kind of answer your question, but also add something. It's not only about capability, it's also about intent. So those two are important. So what Xi Jinping has directed the PLA is to be ready by 2027. That doesn't mean that he will do it. However, it is not just about when, it's about why. Tomorrow, if the president of Taiwan declared independence, that's a why red line for China to do something. It's not about 2027, it's about what's happening now. Or if there's a whole list of about 6 or 7 red lines that the US government has published every year about what they think are red lines for China to attack Taiwan. Another one is declaring nuclear weapons. So these could be red lines that are not based on timelines, but based on what's happening here in Taiwan. And the other option is Xi Jinping could wake up one day and just say, do it. It's not based on a timeline, it's based on him. And he's the ultimate authority there that can decide when it will occur. But it is more important, from my point of view, to ask the why question.
But let's talk about numbers, okay? Because I have the number from the USCC here. Over the past 5 years, PLA incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone have increased from 20 in 2019 to 3,075 in 2024. That's a ridiculously dramatic increase of 15,000% in 5 years' time, and an average of 3 times per day.
Right.
And it also points out that it's not mainly for intimidation, not just that, but also for rehearsal of something real. What's your assessment on this?
So Admiral Paparo mentioned the same thing. He said that the PLA is no longer doing exercises; they are actually preparing for war. And so it's not a matter of making sure that the air crew and the Navy knows where to go and what to do. They're actually preparing for war. So it's, as Dr. Shen mentioned, it quickly transition from these operations around Taiwan to a blockade or to an attack. And so right now, I believe that China has certain capabilities that already meet the criteria that Xi Jinping has asked for. So there are a lot of areas that they're already ready for action. The areas that they need to build up are in the Navy. They still have to build more carriers. They only have 3 now, and they're building a 4th one, which might be nuclear powered. We don't know. But in the Air Forces also, they need more, and they need more drones, both air, sea, and subsurface. They're not there yet. So this is where the 2027 comes in. Now remember, Xi Jinping in April 2023, at a speech in the Southern Theater Command, he challenged those present and said, quote, "To strengthen training under actual combat conditions, deepen the study of war and operational issues, innovate the concepts of combat and the methods of combat and training." So that's why China is in Ukraine with Russian soldiers. That's why they're helping the Houthis attack ships in the Red Sea. And any place there's a war, there's certainly PLA trying to learn from that issue, because they haven't had a war since 1979 with Vietnam and 62 with India. So their experience is almost zero. That's why they need that experience. So they're not ready in that area of the actual training preparations.
预计在未来8年 ，2026到2033年，投入1兆2500亿元的经费，来建构包括打造台湾之盾、建构分层防御、高度感知、有效拦截的先进防空系统。
President Lai mentioned about that we organize special defense budget around 400 billion in the future. I think William Lai mentioned about the NATO model. I need to explain what is the NATO model. NATO model is a NATO country follow the United States requirement to increase defense budget to 5% till to 2030. So you can see that President Lai also mentioned about Taiwan defense budget right now already increased to the 3.32 GDP next year. And then 2030 will increase to the 5%. But not 5% defense budget is all focused on traditional armament or traditional defense budget. 3.5 is traditional defense budget, and 1.5 will focus on cybersecurity, critical infrastructure protection, and defense industry. And President also mentioned about how to cooperate with other countries, how to develop and research that some advanced weapon system and cooperate with other countries. And President also mentioned about that Taiwan need to share the responsibility of Indo-Pacific security or Indo-Pacific defense, and also mentioned about that how to do some defense reform, like how to reform the training, how to reform the mobilization system, and then also at the MND need to increase the future budget from 2026 to 2033. Will increase to the 1 trillion and to 02 billion. Thank you.
Dr. Shen, just want to clarify, did you mean 40 billion or 400 billion?
400 billion.
Oh, okay.
400 billion is the special budget. But President Lai also mentioned about from 2026, from 2033, will increase to another amount of the defense budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when we think of defense budget, usually people think of arms sales or strengthening our asymmetric capabilities, right? But German, you argue there's more to it, right? What are we missing here?
Right. So you can buy all the military weapon systems and it looks good, but if you don't have the people to use them and you don't have backups to these people if they get injured or they're not available, then you have a weapon system that no one can use. So I hope that the military budget in Taiwan is going to greatly increase the number of reservists that should be trained in case there's a conflict. And currently, the government is not training all of them. There's an estimated 2 million reservists, ages up till, I believe, 38, available, but only a few 100,000, maybe 100,000 are actually trained. So that's a big gap. It's only 5% of the total. So I hope that Taiwan decides to aggressively train more reservists and also consider other alternatives, such as instead of having 18-year-old men go to college to avoid their initial one-year term, that they conscript them at 18. So they get them right after high school and they go right in, and now you have 100,000 that you can guarantee are coming in to do their one-year service. The second recommendation I would say is consider conscripting women also. You can also double the number of people that are actually available for fighting.
Yeah, but I would say it probably not a very popular idea. But I think another major concern is that whether President Lai's this proposal or his good intention can be really implemented here in Taiwan, right? Garen, what's your take on this?
Well, as was mentioned previously, the Legislative Yuan gets a vote on the budget, and the current budget, I don't believe the KMT has clearly stated that above 3% is a challenge. Mm-hmm. So getting to 5% in this current situation might be almost impossible. And secondly, when President Lai says by 2030 there'll be a 5% budget, well, that implies that he will be reelected because his term is over in 2028. So again, we have to see if that occurs.
So Dr. Shen, are you optimistic about this? Even if it can be passed the legislature, is it sustainable or is it realistic to achieve this 5% of GDP?
I think a newer defense budget is one thing, because a newer defense budget has many administration spending. But special defense budget or special budget is include very special item, very special thing like cybersecurity, defense industry, because the President also mentioned about how to invest defense industry in domestic in Taiwan and how to collaborate with another country defense industry. So defense budget is symbolic because in legislative discussion, which one a legislator object this special budget, we'll see. And then they will think about that 2028, we're re-elected. And then people are thinking about, okay, this guy not support defense budget and ignore that Taiwan security. I think legislature will affect this situation.
Thank you for your insights and your contribution. We have to wrap it up there. If you like our show, please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload a new video of Taiwan Talks. I'm Ethan Liu. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.